In this Don Hall Works YouTube video, I'm going to show you how I made this cool dice tower. Step by step. Stay tuned. For this project, I made some stencils, and I'm going to use these to cut out slabs to make this dice tower I'm going to attempt to make. And I've set my slab roller here to 3/8 of an inch. So let's see what I can do with this on here. Okay, making the slab here. All right, there's my slab, and the first thing I like to do is I like to take a rib and scrape off all that texture from the canvas in the slab roller. Now I have all these parts here that I'm going to need to make my dice tower. So I simply put the stencil down using a needle tool. Just go around and make a nice slab. This will be one side of the tower. This one is actually the bottom. And these other two are little baffles that go inside to make the dice bounce around inside of the tower when you drop it. When you drop the dice. All right, so you get the idea, and I will now make some more slabs, make the other parts. I need one more of those and two more sides. So I'm going to take this clay and I'm going to wedge it back up and use it over again. All right, there's all the pieces all chopped up, ready to get put together. I just got to let it all dry out and get a little bit stiffer. All right, I'm going to start this project by attaching this piece to here and this piece, which is the bottom, to here. And to do that, I'm going to use my 45 tool to cut the edges at a 45-degree angle, which makes a larger space for the two panels to fit together, and they stick together a lot better that way. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see that procedure. Okay, here's my 45 tool. All right, these two pieces are now ready to get attached to each other. And to do this, I use slip, and I use the same clay that I made these project with, and the slip is just this clay with a couple of drops of Darvon 7. This is Darvon 7. It basically turns the clay into a kind of a glue almost. And I like to use a little comb well, it's a rat tail comb that I trimmed off part of it, and I use this to just score the edges I'm going to attach. All right, I'm going to do the edges on the bottom as well. It's easier to get the pieces to stay in place if you do more than 3 sides at a time, or if you do 3 sides rather than just 2. Now I'm going to save this stuff here. This is important. I'm going to use that as well. All right, let's see here. I want to score this side. And I'll start with the bottom. I simply get this to stand up here, and then stand up on the side as well. So that is all there is to that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run a bead of clay down in here, and I'm going to use this part that I took off. I'm going to dunk this in some water. I'm going to squeeze it out and roll it into very thin snakes. Let's put a little reinforcement now on the inside. All right, that's not too bad. I'm gonna put this on this to kind of help support this one. I use just a little couple of pieces of wood here, cornered, so that I can push them together as I push the bead of wet clay into that edge to reinforce it, to make it a little stronger. Nobody's ever going to be able to see on the inside of this, so it doesn't have to be pretty, but it has to be snug. And this is one of the nice things about this tool, is I can hold the corner both directions while I press in to get a nice tight fit. There, that's all you really have to do to hold these 3 pieces in place. Now I'm going to put the other side on and some ramps in here, so when you drop the dice in, it goes back and forth and out of the bottom of the tower. All right, I put the sides, the bottom on. I put these panels in here, so when the dice get dropped in here, they're going to go boom, 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 and then out the side. Now I'm going to put the top, or I should say this other side on. I measured it. Hopefully it'll somewhat fit where I want it. Yeah, that looks pretty darn good right there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap this up with some plastic and let it sort of all get to be the same amount of moisture. It's been in the plastic overnight, and I took it off, put it on a mat so I can turn it around, and I need to cut the top off smooth. So what I did is I used a straight edge and marked it with a needle tool And now I'm going to just cut it off so the top will be nice and even. And I still have to figure out exactly how I'm going to make the top of it. I considered throwing it on a wheel, but I'm leaning towards now making a cube, as if like it's a dice cube that you can lift the lid off to drop the dice in. So I tried it out to see if it would work, and it did. Cool. All right, so the first section of the top, the lid, is I cut a 8 by 6 inch rectangle, and it's going to hang over the edge, top edge of the pyramid a little bit. And I'm going to show you, I want to put a lip on here. What we're looking at here is the bottom of the lid. So the piece that I cut out of here, I cut into lengths that will fit in here, and that'll be the lip at the top of the pyramid tower. So I'm cutting these with my 45 tool. Hopefully they will all fit nicely into here. Get a little slip and water here. And build a rectangle that I hope will fit inside of there. Yeah, I think that'll fit all right. And now I'm going to slip here and the outside here, and then carefully put it in and make it all nice and straight. Okay, what I've done here is I've made 6 squares, that 3 inches, that I'm going to turn into die, and a die. And so this, I'm just using this to make the dots. This is the number 3 die here. And where's my, I'm going to cut the edges off in a 45, and I'm going to take these 6 pieces here and I'm going to make them into a cube that will be the pull top of our lid. All right, so I've scored and slipped all the pieces, and so it's just a matter of putting them together into a cube. Pretty easy to do. There's the 4th, 5th side, and then the lid will go right on here, and I'll spend some time cleaning up the corners, and then I'm going to figure out how to set it into here. All right, so what I did is I put all those 6 sides of the dice together, and I cut a triangular hole in the top of the lid, and when I did it, I held the knife at an angle so it would fit better into my dice here. And on one corner I put a little hole. That's the side I want to put down. So I'm going to put a little bit of slip on here and score it a little bit, and we'll see if this will actually stick in here or not. But this was my concept, to have this in here like this for the lid, and then it pokes through at the bottom, and so that hole turns into a place where I can press the clay together and make this a nice tight fit. So once that's nice and tight in there, I'll go ahead and I'll clean this all up, and it'll be ready to sit on the top of my tower. So I just took this out of the plastic. It's been up in there again, you know, all night. And I'm getting ready to draw a design on here. And the way I do that is I use a pencil, which is like a 3B, and I have a whole assortment of different kinds of stencils that I use to assist me in my design. So all I do is I use a pencil, and I use one of my stencils, and it leaves just enough there. I don't know if you can even see that, but it leaves enough of a indentation that I can come back later. I'll make it a little bit darker for you. I normally will not want to have too large of a groove in there. There, you get the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish up this whole design, and when I'm done, I'll come back and I'll show you how I paint the underglaze on. I've drawn on with the pencil all my outlines of what I'm going to fill in with underglaze now. I like to use these flat square brushes. They make a nice sharp line for painting the underglaze. And basically what I have to do here is give it the first coat of underglaze, and this is what it looks like after just one coat of underglaze. It needs at least 2 more likely 3 in most places. All right, here's my dice tower with 3 or 4 coats of each one of the underglazes painted in to where they go. And so now I'm going to go to the second step, which is to make that look like this, where I've added some shading or some modeling to give the impression that with these circles, which are going to turn into balloons later, have some volume to them. So we do this by modeling, which means I'm going to add some white to the blue and some black to the blue to give that impression. The way I do this is I'll pick a color like this one. The first color I'm going to do on this side is blue. And so the way I do this is I start with a lighter color. I start with some white, and I put that here like this. It's a little tricky because oftentimes, because it's underglaze, you'll put something on and it'll look actually darker when you're actually adding light. So I took a little blue now, I took a little white, and I mixed it together, and now I'll go a little bit bigger with this. Then I'll put just some completely straight blue in here. Then I'll get some black and I'll add a little black to the blue. And I'll put this down here so I get a gradual gradation from light to dark. Now I'll have to do this back and forth, 3-4 times to get it to the right shade. And often the reason why I like to do more than one at a time is that while this one dries, I can start working on the next square or the next part, and while this dries, and that way I can keep going back and forth. I'll do all the blues to that extent, let them dry, and then I'll go back in a second or third, even a fourth time to make it a gradual transition from light to dark like is done here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now all over the other two sides here that I haven't done yet. And when that's done, we'll go on to the next stage. Okay, so I've painted it all now 3-4 times at least, and I've done the modeling over the top where I added white and black to give it a little bit of impression of 3 dimensions. And what I'm working on now is I'm outlining everything in black. To do this, I use a brush. It's a line brush, very long, thin brush. And I simply trace around the outside of every different color change on my dice tower. And this takes a lot of patience and a lot of practice to get this right. But if I do make a mistake while I'm doing this, it's not the end of the world, because I can always go back and touch it up and paint over it. All right. You get the idea. Now I'm going to finish this whole thing using my line brush. Well, I fired it. This fired it to about 2,000 degrees around cone 1. And I'm going to glaze it now with some of commercial glaze. It's a 06 glaze that's a semi-gloss, just to give it a little bit of a shine. This is a brushing glaze, and it works okay this way. I also can spray these sometimes, but this seems to be all right. Here's the dice tower. It's been fired now to cone 06 for a glaze. Make it a little shiny. Colors come popping out, and it seems to work great. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel, Don Hall Works. Thank you.